Hi y'all, how y'all doing? It's Kimberly here. Thank you all for showing up to my channel. Thank you all the new subscribers. Thank you so much. Today I'm going to talk about a health issue that I have. I've had it for a long time, I guess. Probably since I was a child. It was something that, I think the first time I went to the hospital was about 6 years ago. I woke up one morning and I felt really bad, and I felt very lethargic and exhausted and just very tired, and physically I felt like I had a stomach ache, and I had some pain in my back, and it was starting in my lower back, but it's starting to radiate up into the upper thoracic area in your back, back there. And it was pretty, I guess, kind of mild when I first woke up, but it was progressing. And I woke up that morning, and I knew I was in pain and felt bad, but I kept thinking, oh, it'll pass. I don't have health insurance, and I didn't at that time, and a lot of times I'm just like, ugh, just tough it out and it'll go away, or, I'll get over it and just have to bite the bullet and get through the pain. And I was trying to do that, and I was working a nighttime job. I was a paper delivery person, and I had to work 7 nights a week, and I had been doing that job for about 4.5 or 5 years almost, I think, and it was excruciating, and or it started to become excruciating. It just started to radiate up more and more. I got very dizzy to the point where I was having trouble walking, and then I was in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I just doubled over in pain, and then I just had projectile throw up. I mean, I couldn't hold it in, and I mean, it just sprayed like a volcano. And so I was like, I better go to the hospital, and I was in really bad pain, and oh, I need to take a shower, and so smelly from the day before I worked. I worked all night, and then I hadn't washed my hair since the day before, and I was like, so I got in the shower, and I was doubled over about that time. I was bent over, not able to stand up. I was just bent over, and I was like, oh, trying to wash my hair, and it took about 30 minutes for me to take a shower and wash my hair. Didn't put any makeup on. I don't even know if I combed my hair. I just put on a hat and a sweatshirt and pants, and I left, and I drove myself to the hospital. And I lived out in the country. I lived about 5 miles outside town, and I was trying to get to the county hospital because I didn't have insurance, and it was all the way across town. And I got somewhere in town, and there was a hospital across from the red light I was at. And I remember I was in such pain. I was shaking. I was holding on to the steering wheel, and I was doubled over real close to the steering wheel. I was hugging it. And then I was looking over, and the people next to me, they were looking at me, and I remember it's a man and a woman. They were pointing at me, and I was like, ugh, I make this horrible face, I guess, and I was like, ugh. And they probably thought I was drunk or something. But that hospital, there was another hospital right across from the red light. I was like, I couldn't make it to the county. I pulled into the emergency, and I parked, and then I guess I went through just a regular door. I couldn't find, I was bent over. I mean, when I was walking, I was looking at the floor. My head was, horizontal to the floor. I couldn't stand up straight at all. And so I was trying to figure out where I was. I had to turn my head. It hurt so bad I couldn't even hardly move. I was walking through the hospital, and I was going through the hallways, and I think it was pretty early in the morning, and I saw pairs of legs with scrubs on them, so there were nurses walking by me, but nobody asked me if I was okay or offered to help me or anything. I was moaning. Ugh. None of them said anything. I must have passed 5 or 6 nurses, not a single one asked me anything. And so I finally found my way to the emergency room. It took me about 5 minutes walking through the hallways. And then I told the nurse, I walked over to her little area, and I told her, I think I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what's wrong with me. So she pulled me in the room, and she's talked to me and took down notes and whatever, and I was explaining to her, it was all the way, by that time it was all the way up to the top of my shoulder blades, you know, that your shoulder blades that poke out right there. I was in excruciating pain, and I peed on myself. I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I wet my pants. And previously, before that, I had for about 6 months, I had some dizziness and weird kind of exhaustion kind of feelings. I wrote it off from the job because it was 7 nights a week, and it's very hard to find somebody to sub for you on a job like that because they have to know your route, and I had a huge route. I made, my whole income was from that route. It wasn't just a part-time job for me, it was a double route, a huge route, and it was my full-time job. I did it 7 days a week, and I never took a single night off through all those years. And I just kind of was thinking it was exhausting. I was tired, and I was thinking about trying to train a sub. It's just a lot of work to even take a night off on a job like that, because we have flip cards, and you got to go through all the houses, and sometimes it's kind of hard at night when you're delivering those papers, and it's just a lot of work, and I just never wanted to do it. And a couple of times when I was at the end of my route, I literally peed my pants one time. I was like, oh my God, I was almost through, and I was trying to hold it to get to the convenience store. I was like, I just couldn't do it. So I packed my seat with old newspapers. I delivered the last few papers I had, and I drove straight home and had to jump in the shower. I was like, started thinking, what is wrong with me, you know? I thought, I must be going through menopause. Is this some kind of symptoms of that, or what's, you know, I was thinking, am I just getting old? I can't hold my bladder, or what? And then another time I got home from somewhere, and I was trying to put my key in the door, and I barely made it in the door. And I mean, I just barely, honestly, I didn't make it halfway to the bathroom. And so when I got to the hospital and I was telling her all these symptoms and things that had been happening, and she goes, well, let me do some tests. You might be having kidney stones. I was like, oh, but I can't hardly breathe. And I couldn't breathe. I was having trouble breathing, and I started thinking I was having a stroke or a heart attack because the pain was so intense that I couldn't. She was trying to get me to fill out they give you paperwork, you know, at the emergency room. I couldn't remember my phone number. I couldn't remember my doctor's name. I couldn't remember, like, part of my address, or there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't remember. Not that I didn't want to do it. I mean, I literally couldn't remember, and I started thinking, I'm having a stroke. There's something wrong with me, you know? And I started getting mad. I was like, there's not kidney stones, or I can't remember stuff. I was telling her, I was like, there's something wrong with me now, you know? And so she goes, let me go get a doctor, and the doctor came in there, and I told him like 5 times I had pain all the way up into my chest, up here. And he kept putting his hand lower. You mean down here, down here? And I had to tell him like 5 times, and he just wasn't listening. I was like, no, and I got really mad. And so then they took me into a private room, or not a private room, it was like a little office that had like a exam room, and they put me in there, and I almost couldn't walk, and I couldn't even get on the bed. I just had to lean over, and I was just hanging on. I was in agony, and I thought I was dying, and they left me in there. I was in that room for probably 2 hours. They came and checked on me maybe about once every 30 minutes. I really, really was getting mad. I was like, I'm going to die here, and nobody's going to know it. And why aren't they hooking me up to heart monitor, EKGs, or whatever, you know, for heart attacks and strokes? Why aren't they doing something? And I read that for a stroke, you have to do the treatment or start treatment within a few hours to stop brain damage or something like that. With a stroke, you have to be very quick about treating them, and I was just getting so mad. And then they came back in, and they assessed it to be kidney stones. And I mean, at that time, I was to the point where I was almost incapacitated. I could not speak. They hadn't given me anything to drink, and by that time I had been there about 3 or 4 hours. And then I think, actually, on my way up there, I called my sister and I left a message saying, I'm going to the hospital, there's something wrong with me. And I just hung up and I didn't tell her what hospital or what. And then I called my boss on the way up there, or I think maybe when I was in the office talking to the nurse, I told him I can't come in. I was working 2 jobs. I was working the newspaper job, and I had started a part-time job. Every once in a while I would work a part-time job just so I could keep my head above water, And at that time I was working a part-time job, and I called that boss. I told him I think I was supposed to be there at 5. I was like, I'm not going to come in today. I'm in the hospital right now. And he sent his wife up to the hospital, and well, she didn't show up until I finally got into a private room, and by that time, I don't know, it had been several hours, and I don't know what they tried to give me some painkiller, which didn't work at all. And I leaned over to the nurse. I was like, are y'all going to give me a painkiller? She goes, we just did. Like, that's what that shot was, or the IV. And I was like, oh, I think it's worse, I mean, it was the most excruciating, most horrible pain I've ever, I haven't been in the hospital for anything really. I've been so lucky in my life that I've been, I haven't had perfect health, but I've had almost nothing severe happen to me. That was the first time I'd been in the hospital since I was born. And the nurses were telling me that, 2 of the nurses, one of them told me that, when she had kidney stones one time, and it was as bad as childbirth. And then the other one that was in there, she goes, yes, I had them, and it was worse than childbirth. It hurt me worse than giving birth. And I've read several places online, several reports and stories online about how excruciating it was, that many women have said it was worse than childbirth. And to me, I couldn't speak at the final end, and the lady, my boss's wife, was there with me, and she didn't have to be there, and they were very Christian people, and he just sent his wife down there, and because I couldn't speak enough, by that time, I had already called those 2, I guess, on the way up there while I was able to speak, but by several hours passing, I really couldn't hardly speak, and my mouth had swelled up so much they didn't give me anything to drink, and I don't know if that was part of the treatment or something, or they just neglected it, I don't know. My tongue swelled up so much that I couldn't even form words. My tongue was like sticking, my gums and my tongue were sticking together, and I was trying to communicate to them, but I was so lethargic, I couldn't even hardly lift my head up, and I was balled up. I was turned over in the hospital bed, and she stayed there for several hours, and they were trying to figure out who my next of kin was, and I had my phone, but I couldn't function. It was so horrifically painful that, like, my brain was shutting down, parts of my I wasn't functioning in my brain. I couldn't think right. I was thinking in my brain my sister, and at some point I could remember her name, and then at another point I couldn't remember her name, but I was trying to tell my brain to tell my mouth to work. I was laying in the hospital bed, and I couldn't speak to them. I couldn't tell them what her name was, and every once in a while, they tried for like 30 minutes. They went through my phone and everything, and then they finally found a couple of numbers. They called them, and they figured out one of my sister, the one that I had called, and, well, she came, and then my boss wife, she left, but I'm very grateful that she stayed there. She didn't have to, and I'm amazed that she did. She stayed there for several hours with me, and I was very grateful that she did that. And when my sister finally got there, I was so incapacitated. I never would think that kidney stones would cause that kind of reaction, but the nurse was telling me that it was my brain compensating for the pain, that when your body hits certain levels of pain, that it tries to compensate for it, and your body does weird things, and your brain will try to overcompensate for the pain. And for me, it was like I was shutting down, my brain wasn't working. I couldn't talk, I couldn't think straight. couldn't remember stuff. And finally, around midnight, well, they gave me one painkiller. That one didn't work. Then they tried a second painkiller. They told me this is for pregnant women. I don't remember what it was. And they gave it to me, and it barely took the edge off. But I was still in excruciating pain. And then a couple hours later, the pain started coming back really bad. And so they gave me this one painkiller. And the nurse said, I'm surprised it was some narcotic that they give people who like get their legs cut off or something like that. Because I'm surprised that he hardly ever writes a prescription for this painkiller. We rarely do this. So it was a heavy narcotic, and it did finally take, I would say, probably about 60% of the pain away. But it wasn't like constant excruciating pain, but it was to the point where I really couldn't even hardly move. I did, I could barely function. But at midnight, I heard the doctor and the nurse outside the room saying that, well, she doesn't have insurance, so we're going to have to move her out of this room. And we've already treated her. She's, they were going to kick me out at midnight. And the nurse was like, we can't do that. She still needs treatment. She needs to be here. We need to watch her. And they kind of like argued a little bit. But I could hear them. And, well, at midnight, they were telling me, she was like, well, they're going to need this room. And I don't know why, we're not overflowing. I mean, they could leave you in it overnight. We really need to watch you overnight. And she was telling me, if you get sick, if you throw up, or if you start to have more excruciating pain, if something happens, you need to call 911 because you need to come back to the hospital. And like an idiot, I didn't want to leave my car there. I couldn't walk straight. I was still looking at the floor. I couldn't stand up straight. That's how bad the pain was. And my sister was like, you can't drive, Kim, you can't drive. I was like, but I felt like, I won't say I felt not 100% better, but for the level of pain that I was before that, the narcotics they gave me some other pills. They gave me like, I think 1 or 2 prescriptions of pain pills that I had to take every hour. And by that time, with the narcotics they gave me there, the heavy-duty narcotics they gave me there, and then I was supposed to start taking them, I think in 2 or 3 hours. They wanted some of that narcotic to wear off a little bit. And I drove my car home, and then I went to my job. I mean, I hardly ever call in sick, and I shouldn't have done it, but I remember I could drive. I was driving better than when I was driving on the way to the hospital, because I don't remember driving to the hospital hardly, except when I went to the red light and the people were staring at me. I remember the bits of pain, but I really don't remember driving to the hospital. That's how my brain was so, the pain was affecting me so bad. But once I did, I got my job done, but it took me like 6 hours to do. It took me double the time, and it was like on a regular weekday night, which should have only taken me like 3 hours. And I was walking up the driveway, and I could barely throw the paper. It was just, I was in agony, and I could not walk straight for about 6 months. And for about the first month, I literally was bent over like that. Everywhere I went, or anywhere I went, I tried to stay home as much as I could. But if I had to go somewhere to get dog food or do something, I couldn't stand up straight. I literally was bent over. I was hunched over, and I was having to tell all the cashiers everywhere. I was like, oh, I've got kidney stones. And I would like put my money on the counter. It was like, it was horrible. And they told me not to drink Cokes, which I'm a Cokeaholic. I was addicted to Cokes, but I didn't drink Cokes for about 6 months, really. I think I drank like a half of one just because I wanted the taste, or maybe just a little bit. But the pain was so horrific. I was like, okay, okay, I'm not going to drink Cokes. And I had drank Cokes all my life. Since I was about probably 7 years old, I drank Coke every day of my life. And, that was like 40-something years of drinking Coke straight. But I didn't drink enough water. I didn't drink Cokes then for a long time. And then when I kind of fell back into it, I would drink Cokes every once in a while. And now I do drink Cokes almost every day. But I do drink, the same amount of water, if not more. I always drink a lot of water now. If I had drank a lot of water then, I probably wouldn't have had that attack. And I did have another attack last year. And I know it was from not drinking enough water. But kidney stones can be caused by a lot of phosphorus, which is in Cokes, and phosphoric acid. I'm probably not saying this right, but you can look it up and research it. Calcium, anything that has calcium in it, and I think oxalates, which I can't remember. They gave me a list of foods that I couldn't eat, and it was like almost everything had one of those things in it. I'm not supposed to eat any kind of greens, nothing that has calcium in it, or any Cokes or any food that has phosphoric acid or anything like that in it, and other items too. Salt, I have to be on a low salt diet, and it was just the most excruciating, horrific thing that ever happened to me. So I try to regulate it. I'm not as good as I should be. Every once in a while I try to be better, drink more water. I try not to drink so much Cokes, but it's really addictive. I think the caffeine in it, and plus the flavor. I love the flavor of Coke. I don't like Dr. Pepper. I can kind of drink Diet Dr. Pepper every once in a while. I'll drink a Mountain Dew maybe once every 6 months, and maybe I think that's really the only soft drinks I like. Maybe Diet Dr. Pepper. I can't stand Diet Coke. It tastes so weak and so horrible. And every once in a while, I don't really like root beer, but I'll drink like 1 or 2 drinks of it sometimes. I'll get like a small root beer or a can of root beer. I'll drink like maybe 1, 2, 3 drinks, and then I pour the rest of it out because it's so sweet, and I just can't stomach the sweetness of it. And Coke burns my throat. I don't know. It's just a stronger taste or something I liked about Coke. But if you've ever had kidney stones, and yes, they're excruciating when you're trying to get rid of them, eliminate them from your body. And I had to do that for a long time. I was eliminating little tiny rocks, and yeah, it's real painful. It's horribly painful. And I was lucky enough, I still have about two big ones inside me, which I would love to get there's a procedure that they can do where they, I think it's like a shock wave and it shatters them. I would love to do that. But if not, surgery, if you can't eliminate them by drinking a lot of water and liquids, then either surgery or that shockwave therapy is the only thing that can get rid of them. And I really hope I don't have to have surgery anytime soon. Or they really haven't been hurting. I have constant, I guess, uncomfortableness. It used to be, before I went to the hospital at that time, it got to the point where it was pain. But I had these symptoms probably since I was a teenager. But I kind of wrote it off because I felt weird on one side of my body. I thought one of my ribs might have been broke from all the activities I did or something. Because I could feel like something, it literally felt like something was scraping my rib, my bottom, that little floating rib down there. When I would sit, and I would sit crooked, I would have to move around, and I would move my body around. And that went on since I was a teenager until I think I was 49, or I don't remember how old I was when I went into the hospital. My late 40s. And I just blew it off and I started thinking, is there something wrong? Are my parts not in the right place? I thought, I thought, are my intestines or something is not, am I abnormal? Is there something wrong? Because I can't sit right. And it would be, when I was driving a car or sitting for a long time, I would have to stretch it out on that side, and then that would make my back hurt on this side, so I'd have to lean back, and it was really affecting my, I don't know, just my life. And I kind of got used to the pain. I mean, it started getting more and more painful. There were times when I would bend over and, I mean, instantly, I'd get instant pain. And I had been eliminating kidney stones for a long time, and I didn't know it, you know. I was like, I wrote it off that I was drinking too many Cokes, and I would try to, you know, cut back on the Cokes, and I'd try to drink more water, and that's probably why I didn't have an attack so soon, because I really did try, but I didn't know anything about kidney stones, had no idea. But apparently I probably had them since I was a teenager, or maybe even a child, because I drank Coke since I was 7 years old. I told the doctor that, and she goes, well, you probably had them forever. And a lot of people have kidney stones. Probably about, I think like 80% of the population has kidney stones, but most people don't know it until they have an attack. And it can be anywhere from mild pain to really painful when you're trying to eliminate them. And some people confuse it with a kidney infection. And a lot of people find out that they have kidney stones because they go to the doctor thinking they have a kidney infection, but it's really kidney stones. But you can get a kidney infection and get kidney problems from kidney stones also. So that's why I have to drink a lot of water. And I have to say, that was the most, I can't say enough about the level of pain. It was the most excruciating thing ever. It was, I mean, had the wind knocked out of me. I've been punched in the face, knocked unconscious. You know, I've had some, you know, really painful experiences, but that pain was constant, and it went on for a long time. And now it's like I say, it's not really so much pain. I don't take painkillers, and even when I did get the painkillers from the doctor, I only took enough from, well, I did take the full prescription from when I got out of the hospital the first time, when I really couldn't walk straight. I took all of it, and I don't like taking any kind of pills. I don't like taking medicine. I don't like taking, you know, I try not to take a lot of drugs or medicine. I take what's necessary, you know, to maintain, you know, my health. But I'm not on painkillers now. It's not enough, I don't think. I would say maybe some days it's like a 3. It just depends, you know. It's like, it depends on how tired I am or how I feel. And like today, it's probably like about a 1. It's just uncomfortable. It's just constant uncomfortableness every single day. But my brain has gotten so used to it, I guess, the level of pain, that I just learned to live with it. I don't know, just the way it is. And one of the first things I would do if I got insurance or won the lottery or something was deal with that. Get those things out of me. And I feel for anybody who has them. They're most excruciating, most horrible things in the world. It's just, the pain is just ungodly. It's just ridiculous, the level of the pain that kidney stones can cause. And I never knew this before that happened to me. I had no clue. I knew they were painful. I always heard that, but, you know, I didn't, until you have them, you just really don't know. Well, just wanted to talk about that. If anybody has any comments, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for showing up to my channel. Thank you so much.